Look, I have been working at Helix 9 for 3 rotations now, and I thought I had seen everything. I am Vex, a junior technician, which is a fancy way of saying I fix broken equipment and pretend not to notice when the instructors abuse their authority. The orbital station floats above Kepler 442b, a beautiful planet that nobody cares about because all the action happens up here, in the cold metal corridors where future soldiers are supposedly being forged. The Galactic Defense Academy. Prestigious, they call it. Elite, the best of the best from 47 different species, all crammed together to learn how to kill efficiently and follow orders without question. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, wait. Everything. Everything could go wrong, and usually does. I was running diagnostics on the holographic projectors in Training Bay 7 when the humans arrived 6 weeks ago. 12 of them. 12 soft-looking bipeds with their weird forward-facing eyes and their constant, unsettling smiles. The other species laughed. Not openly, of course. That would be rude. But I heard the whispers in the recreation halls, saw the smirks during meal periods. Humans. The newest members of the galactic community. The species that barely survived their own planet's environmental collapse before developing faster-than-light travel. Weak, slow, overly emotional. That was the consensus. Riley was the one who caught my attention first. Female, about 1.6 meters tall, with dark hair that she kept tied back in violation of uniform standards. Nobody corrected her. I think the command staff assumed she did not know better, that human stupidity was to blame. But I watched her eyes during orientation, and let me tell you something. That female knew exactly what rules she was breaking. She just did not care. "Why do we need to memorize 17 different salutes?" she asked on her second day, her voice carrying across the assembly hall with zero respect for the echoing acoustics. "Cannot we just, nod, wave, do a little finger gun thing?" Finger gun thing. I had to look that up later. Apparently, humans point their digits at each other and make explosion sounds as a form of casual greeting. Absolute lunatics. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me set the scene properly, because context matters. Especially when you are trying to explain how a 120-pound human female managed to nearly kill a Draxian combat instructor in under 2 seconds. Training Bay 7 is large, 40 meters by 60 meters, with reinforced walls designed to withstand plasma fire and kinetic impacts. The ceiling curves upward in a dome, studded with sensory equipment that tracks every movement, every breath, every heartbeat of the students below. Big Brother is always watching, except Big Brother has compound eyes and 7 processing nodes. Instructor Throk ran Bay 7 with the kind of iron discipline that would make a prison warden weep with envy. Draxian, 2.8 meters of muscle, chitin plating, and bad attitude. His species evolved on a high-gravity world where the atmosphere could melt your lungs if you breathed it wrong, so they all wear these elaborate breathing apparatus. Masks, the humans call them. Sleek, metallic things that cover the lower half of their faces and filter the station's oxygen-nitrogen mix into something Draxian lungs can process without shutting down. Throk loved that mask, polished it every morning. It was his symbol of authority, gleaming and perfect, just like his service record. 23 years in the Galactic Defense Force, 17 active combat deployments, 3 medals of valor, a disciplinary record so clean it practically sparkled. He believed in hierarchy. He believed in tradition. He believed that students should shut their mouths and absorb knowledge through repeated humiliation. The other students feared him. Henna, a Vailari female with 6 arms and bioluminescent skin. would literally dim herself when Throk entered the room, trying to become invisible. Grix, a Torthan male built like a walking boulder, would lock his joints and refuse to make eye contact. Even the Kryn, a species known for their aggressive territorial behavior, would flatten their ear frills in submission. But Riley? Riley treated Throk like he was a slightly annoying hologram, a temporary inconvenience she had to tolerate before getting back to more interesting activities. Today, Throk announced, his voice amplified through his masked speakers with that characteristic metallic rasp. We will be reviewing defensive formations during multi-vector assaults. Pay attention. Your survival depends on understanding these principles. He activated the holographic display. Blue and red figures materialized in the air, representing friendly and hostile forces. Standard stuff. Formation Delta 9, a classic defensive pattern used for millennia across a dozen different military doctrines. When enemies attack from multiple angles, Throk continued, pacing between the students like a predator selecting prey. You must present a unified front, overlapping fields of fire, mutual support. Individual action is weakness. The formation is strength. Unless the formation is wrong, Riley said. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. I actually stopped my diagnostic scan to watch. You do not interrupt Throk. You especially do not contradict Throk. That is like telling a supernova it is being too dramatic. Throk's head swiveled toward her with mechanical precision. Excuse me? I said, unless the formation is wrong. Riley stepped forward, hands clasped behind her back in a pose that looked respectful but somehow was not. Delta 9 assumes your enemies are using ballistic weapons with predictable trajectories. But if they have energy weapons with no travel time, your overlapping fields of fire just mean you are all standing close enough to die together. Efficient for the enemy, less so for us. The bay went silent. Even the ventilation system seemed to hold its breath. Throk stared at her. Then he made a sound, a clicking, grinding noise that Draxians use to express contempt. You have been here 6 weeks, human. I have been studying warfare for longer than your species has had spaceflight. Sit down. Actually, humans have been studying warfare for about 10,000 years, Riley replied. And I swear she was smiling. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile a predator makes before it strikes. We got really, really good at killing each other before we ever left our planet. It is kind of our thing. So when I see a formation that would get everyone killed against modern weapons, I feel obligated to mention it. You know, just being helpful. Grix made a low rumbling sound. Henna's bioluminescence flickered nervously. I checked the recording equipment twice to make sure it was capturing everything, because I had a feeling this was going to be important later. Throk's mandibles twitched beneath his mask. You dare... I dare to have an opinion, Riley said. Also, I dare to laugh at the idea that standing in a pretty geometric pattern is somehow sacred combat doctrine that cannot be questioned. What is next? Are we going to line up in neat rows and wait for the enemy to shoot us? Because my ancestors tried that in the 18th century, and it worked out great. Super great. Lots of dead people learned valuable lessons about tradition versus tactics. She laughed. Actually laughed, the sound echoing off the curved walls. That was when I knew someone was about to do something incredibly stupid. And I was right. Throk moved faster than I expected. For a species that evolved in 3 times our gravity, Draxians can be surprisingly quick when their pride gets wounded. He crossed the distance between himself and Riley in 4 long strides, his boots hammering against the deck plating like artillery shells finding their targets. Stand, Attention, he growled, each word punctuated by that metallic rasp his mask produced. You will show respect, or you will be removed from this program. Riley did not move, did not even blink. Just stood there with her hands still clasped behind her back, looking up at him with those forward-facing eyes that humans have, the kind that mark them as predators despite their soft appearance. I am showing respect, she said, voice calm as deep space. I respect good tactics. I respect logical thinking. I respect people who can admit when doctrine needs updating. What I do not respect is blind obedience to ideas that get soldiers killed. Oh, this was bad. This was spectacularly bad. I glanced at the other students. Henna had gone completely dark, all 6 of her arms wrapped around herself protectively. Grix had backed up 3 full steps, which for a Torthan meant genuine terror. The Kryn in the corner had their ear frills flat against their skulls. You think you are clever? Throk said, leaning down so his mask was level with Riley's face. You think because your species built some crude starships and begged for galactic acceptance, you have earned the right to question thousands of years of proven military strategy. You are wrong. You are arrogant. You are a disgrace to this uniform. Well, Riley said, and I could hear the smile in her voice, even though her expression stayed neutral. At least I am wearing my uniform correctly, unlike some people who need a fancy breathing apparatus just to survive normal atmospheric conditions. Must be rough, being that dependent on technology. What happens if it breaks? I actually gasped, out loud, like a civilian watching their first combat footage. You do not mock a Draxian's breathing mask. You just do not. It is like insulting their ancestors, their homeworld, and their honor all at once. That mask is not just equipment. It is survival. It is identity. It is everything. Throk went very, very still. The kind of still that happens right before a plasma reactor goes critical. His hand came up, slow and deliberate, and I knew what was coming. Everyone knew what was coming. This was the moment where Riley should have backed down, should have apologized, should have done literally anything other than stand there with that infuriating calm expression. The slap echoed like a gunshot. Throk's palm caught Riley across the left side of her face with enough force to snap her head sideways. The sound was meaty, brutal, the kind of impact that should have sent her sprawling. I saw her cheek redden instantly, saw her body sway from the momentum. Time seemed to stretch. I expected tears. I expected her to fall. I expected her to cry out, to report him, to do what any rational being would do when a superior officer with twice their mass just struck them. Instead, her hand moved. I have watched the security footage 17 times since that day, and I still cannot fully track the motion. One moment, Riley's hand was behind her back. The next moment, it was not. Her fingers hooked into the seal points on Throk's mask, those delicate connection ports where the breathing apparatus locked into place against his facial structure. She pulled, not yanked, not ripped, pulled with precision and force and absolutely zero hesitation. The magnetic seals gave way with a series of sharp clicks. The filtration tube separated from their housing. The entire mask came away from Throk's face like it was made of paper instead of military-grade composite materials. Throk gasped, actually gasped, sucking in station atmosphere that his lungs were never designed to process. His hands flew to his face, clawing at nothing, trying to cover his exposed breathing passages. His eyes went wide. Panic, pure, undiluted panic. Riley stood there, Holding the mask in one hand, her other hand still raised from the strike she had just executed, her face showed nothing. No anger, no fear, no satisfaction, just blank, professional, like she had completed a scheduled maintenance task. Then the alarm started. Biological contamination alert. The computer announced in that calm, feminine voice that emergency systems always seem to have. Atmospheric breach detected in Training Bay 7. Medical response team activated. Throk dropped to his knees, still gasping, his chest heaving as his body tried to extract oxygen from air it could not properly process. His skin, that beautiful blue-gray chitin plating, started turning darker. Purplish. Bad sign. Very bad sign. Henna screamed. Grix backed into a wall so hard the impact sensors registered it. The Kryn bolted for the exit. And Riley? Riley just looked down at Throk, then at the mask in her hand, then at me. Our eyes met across the bay. "You are recording this, right?" she asked, voice perfectly level. "Because I want it documented that I gave him 3 verbal warnings before he put his hands on me. Check the audio logs. Timestamp 0914, 0916, and 0919. I told him not to threaten me. I told him not to invade my personal space. I told him that touching me would be considered assault under station regulations. He chose not to listen." The bay doors burst open. Medical team, 4 of them, rushing toward Throk with emergency respirators. Behind them, 2 security officers with their weapons drawn, looking confused about who they were supposed to be pointing those weapons at. "Drop the mask," one of them shouted at Riley. "Drop it now and step back." Riley set the mask on the floor, gently, carefully, like it was valuable equipment that should not be damaged. Then she raised both hands, palms out, and stepped backward 3 precise paces. "I am unarmed," she said. "I am compliant. I am invoking my right to legal representation and requesting immediate review of security footage before any statements are made." Legal representation. She was asking for lawyers while an instructor suffocated 10 meters away. The absolute audacity. The medical team slapped an emergency respirator on Throk's face. He sucked in filtered air, his chest heaving, his hands shaking. The purple tinge in his skin started to fade, slowly. He was going to live, unfortunately for him, because now he had to live with what just happened. "Detain her," the senior security officer said, jerking his weapon toward Riley. "Assault on an instructor, possible attempted murder." "Self-defense," Riley corrected, not resisting as they put restraints on her wrists. "He struck me first. Check the footage. Check my medical scan for facial trauma. Check his disciplinary record for previous incidents. And while you are at it, check station law regarding physical assault by authority figures. I believe you will find that instructor immunity is voided upon initiation of unauthorized physical contact with the student." She smiled then, that same predator smile from earlier. "I know my rights. Do you?" They led her away, boots clicking on deck plating, leaving Throk on his knees surrounded by medical personnel, leaving the rest of us standing there, trying to process what we had just witnessed. Henna's bioluminescence flickered back on, weak and uncertain. "What just happened?" she whispered. I looked at the broken mask on the floor, at Throk being helped to his feet, at the scorch marks on the wall where nothing had actually exploded, but everything had definitely detonated anyway. "I think," I said slowly, "we just learned why you should never underestimate humans." Grix made that rumbling sound again. "But she is so small." "Yeah," I replied. "So are plasma grenades." They called me to testify 36 hours later. Me, a junior technician who just wanted to fix holographic projectors and avoid interpersonal drama. But apparently, my positioning in the bay gave me the best angle on what happened, and the review board needed every perspective they could get. The hearing room was cold. Not temperature-wise, though that too. Cold in the way that military bureaucracy always is. All sterile lighting and uncomfortable chairs designed to make you want to confess to crimes you did not commit, just to escape faster. 5 board members sat behind a curved table. Admiral Kess, a Vailari with more medals than body mass. Commander Rake, Torthan, built like a mountain. Judge Advocate Prin, a Kryn with legal experience spanning 4 decades. 2 others I did not recognize, representatives from species I rarely encountered. And there, on a holographic display the size of a cargo door, the footage played. Again, and again, and again. "Freeze frame," Admiral Kess said, her voice sharp. "There, timestamp 0922.47. Technician Vex, from your position, did you observe any aggressive movement from the human student prior to this moment?" I looked at the frozen image. Riley's face, head snapped to the side from Throk's slap. "No, Admiral. She was standing at ease. Non-threatening posture." "Resume playback, half speed." We watched, Throk's hand connecting, Riley's head moving. Then so fast it blurred even at half speed, her arm coming forward. "Freeze. Advance 1 frame. 1 more. 1 more." Frame by frame, they analyzed it. Her fingers extending, hooking the seal points, the pull, the separation. 0.18 seconds, Commander Rake rumbled. From impact to mask removal, 0.18 seconds. That is faster than our combat response protocols account for. Human reaction time was documented at 0.25 seconds average. Prin added, ear frills twitching. This exceeds documented parameters by 28%. Either our initial assessment was flawed, or this particular human is exceptional. Or, Admiral Kess said quietly, humans lied about their capabilities during intake evaluations. That sent a chill through the room. Riley's hearing happened next. They brought her in wearing standard detention uniform, hands unrestrained now, flanked by 2 guards who looked more nervous than she did. "You have been charged with assault on a superior officer," Admiral Kess began. "How do you plead?" "Not guilty," Riley said. "Self-defense. He struck me first." "Instructor Throk claims you provoked him verbally." Riley smiled. That smile. "Verbal provocation does not justify physical assault under Galactic Defense Force regulations, Section 12, Paragraph 9. I checked. Also, I issued 3 separate verbal warnings that I would defend myself if he made physical contact. Timestamps 0914, 0916, and 0919. He ignored all 3. Prin pulled up the audio logs, verified the timestamps, nodded slowly. "The human is correct. Under station law, instructor immunity is voided upon initiation of unauthorized physical contact. She acted within legal parameters." "She nearly killed him," Commander Rake protested. "She removed his breathing apparatus after he assaulted her," Riley corrected. "I did not strike him, did not use a weapon. Simply removed equipment he used to strike me. If his biology makes him dependent on supplemental atmosphere, perhaps he should not use that dependency as a cudgel against students. He cannot intimidate verbally." The room went silent. Admiral Kess studied Riley for a long moment. "You knew exactly what you were doing." "Yes, Admiral, I did." "You calculated the response, planned it." "I assessed risk factors and prepared appropriate defensive measures, yes. Humans call it common sense." More silence. Then Prin spoke. Instructor Throk will face disciplinary action for unauthorized physical contact with a student. The human student will receive a formal reprimand for destruction of Academy property, but no criminal charges will be filed. This hearing is concluded. Riley nodded. Thank you. Will there be changes to training protocols to prevent future incidents? Admiral Kess's mandibles twitched in what might have been amusement. Yes, there will be many changes. As they led Riley out, she glanced at me, winked. Actually winked, like this whole thing was some kind of elaborate joke. Maybe it was. Maybe the joke was on us, for thinking humans were soft just because they smiled a lot. We were learning, slowly, that there was a difference between soft and patient. And that patience had limits. 2 weeks passed before training resumed. 2 weeks of rumors, policy revisions, and very uncomfortable conversations in the command structure about how badly they had miscalculated human psychology. Throk was reassigned. Desk duty. Somewhere far away where he could contemplate his life choices without access to students or functional breathing apparatus he might be tempted to weaponize. Nobody said it out loud, but everyone knew his career was finished. You do not recover from being disarmed by a species you publicly called weak. Riley returned to Base 7 on a Tuesday morning. Same tied-back hair, same subtle uniform violations, same expression that suggested she found the entire academy mildly amusing, like watching children play soldier. The other students treated her differently now. Not with fear, exactly. More like respect mixed with healthy caution, the way you might respect a malfunctioning plasma rifle. Useful, potentially life-saving, but liable to explode if handled incorrectly. Our new instructor was a Vailari named Heka. Smaller than Throk, quieter, but with eyes that tracked every movement in the bay like targeting sensors. She did not waste time with speeches about tradition or hierarchy. Today's exercise, she announced, her bioluminescence pulsing with calm authority, involves hostile encounter scenarios, multiple attackers, confined space. You will work in teams. Riley, you will lead Team Alpha. Henna nearly fainted. Grix made that rumbling sound again. The Kryn actually raised their ear frills in what might have been approval. Riley just nodded. Understood. Who is on my team? Grix, Henna, Vex. Wait, what? Instructor, I am a technician. I do not participate in combat exercises. Heka's gaze locked onto me. You do now. Equipment failures happen in combat. You need to understand tactical situations to make better repair decisions. Move. So there I was, standing next to a human who had nearly killed an instructor, a Torthan who could barely look at her without trembling, and a Vailari who kept changing colors like a malfunctioning display panel. All right, Riley said, studying the holographic scenario Heka had activated. We have hostiles approaching from 3 corridors. Standard formation says we defend the central position. Anyone see the problem with that? Grix rumbled uncertainly. We would have overlapping fields of fire? We would also be surrounded and dead within 90 seconds, Riley replied. Better option. We collapse back to Corridor B, force them into a single approach vector. Use Grix as mobile cover, while Henna provides suppressing fire from elevation. Vex, you disable the lighting in Corridors A and C. Humans have better low-light vision than most species. We use that advantage. It was brilliant. It was unconventional. It was exactly the kind of thinking that would get you reprimanded under Throk's command. It worked perfectly. After the simulation ended, after we had successfully neutralized all hostile targets without a single casualty, Heka actually smiled. Well done. Riley's tactical assessment was correct. Traditional formations have limitations. Adaptation is survival. Later, in the equipment bay, I found Riley running diagnostics on her training gear. "That thing with Throk," I said. "You planned it from the start, did you not?" She looked up, and there was that smile again. "Let us just say I know my species' reputation. Soft, weak, emotional. Sometimes it helps to remind people that we survived 10,000 years of warfare before we ever left our planet. We did not get to the stars by being gentle. We got here by being smart enough to know when gentle stops working." "You broke his mask before he could blink," I said. "He should have blinked faster," Riley replied. I laughed, could not help it. 3 rotations ago, I thought humans were a joke, a curiosity, a species that stumbled into the galactic community through luck rather than capability. Now I understood. Humans were not weak. They were patient. They smiled and followed rules and played nice right up until the moment someone mistook patience for weakness. Then they reminded you, very efficiently, that they conquered their entire planet before they bothered leaving it. And that kind of species, you do not want as an enemy. Trust me on this one. So here's what I learned. Working 3 rotations at Helix 9, watching humans integrate into the Galactic Defense Academy, and witnessing firsthand what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. First lesson. Humans smile a lot. They joke. They laugh at things that are not funny, make references nobody understands, and generally act like they are attending a social gathering instead of military training. This does not mean they are not paying attention. This does not mean they are not dangerous. It means they are comfortable enough in their abilities to not take themselves seriously every single moment. That kind of confidence? That comes from experience. Bad experience. The kind where your species spends millennia perfecting the art of violence before ever considering peace. Second lesson. Human reaction time is faster than our initial assessment suggested. Much faster. Riley broke Throk's mask in 0.18 seconds. That is not just quick. That is predatory. That is the speed of a species that evolved hunting other predators, that survived by being faster, smarter, and more ruthless than everything trying to kill them. We measured them wrong. We tested them under controlled conditions and assumed those numbers represented their limits. Wrong. Humans have this thing they call adrenaline, fight or flight response. When threatened, their bodies become something else entirely. Faster, stronger, more focused. Nature's emergency override system built into their biology. Third lesson, and this is the important one. Respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned. Throk spent 23 years believing his rank, his medals, his service record gave him the right to treat students however he wanted. He learned differently. Riley taught him, in 0.18 seconds, that authority without respect is just tyranny waiting to be challenged. And humans? Humans have been challenging tyranny since before they invented writing. It is practically their hobby. The Academy changed after that day. New protocols, new instructor guidelines, new assessments of human capabilities. But more than that, attitudes changed. Nobody laughs at humans anymore. Nobody dismisses them as weak or lucky or undeserving of their place among the stars. Because we finally understood what we invited into our community. Not victims, not refugees grateful for acceptance, warriors, survivors. A species that looked at their dying planet and said, "We will fix this or leave it, but we will not surrender." They chose both. And now they are here, among us, smiling their predator smiles, following our rules right up until those rules become weapons. Never, ever underestimate humans. I will not make that mistake again.